Hey everybody, welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about everything we know so far about the PlayStation 5. So before we get into today's video, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Make sure you guys do so that you guys stay up to date with all the latest and greatest PlayStation 5 videos, as well as other content that we put out daily here on the channel. So let's get into everything we know about the PlayStation 5 so far. So let's start out with the basics. We know that Sony's next generation console will be called the PlayStation 5. That much has been officially confirmed. It's going to be called the PlayStation 5. And this is the logo for it. This is the official logo that Sony has actually revealed for it. So it's going to be the PlayStation 5. Here's what the PS5 logo actually looks like. As for a release date, we do know that it will be coming out this year in 2020. We don't have a specific date, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. As for what the console will look like, we don't have an official source on what it will look like other than sources coming from the dev kits of the PlayStation 5. So we've gotten a lot of leaked images of dev kits for the PlayStation 5, and this is what they all look like. There's even been some mock-ups done by Let's Go Digital, and it's a very strange looking console. It's very big and bulky, but then again, pretty much all dev kits are. But usually dev kits somewhat resemble the final product, so is this what the final PlayStation 5 is going to look like? We don't know, but this is our best guess so far, is this is what the dev kit looks like. And as for the hardware inside the PlayStation 5, we don't know specifics, but we do know that the CPU behind the PlayStation 5 will be an 8-core AMD Ryzen Zen 2 CPU, so it is a brand new desktop architecture chip, which will be great. It will be 8 cores, same as the PlayStation 4, but these are going to be brand new Zen 2 cores rather than the old Jaguar architecture released back with the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro. The GPU, we don't know specifics on this other than it will be a custom Radeon Navi graphics card, so AMD's brand new Navi GPU architecture. Once again, another desktop chip, so that'll be really good rather than AMD's last Radeon graphics card in the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro. As of now, we don't know anything about how much RAM the system's going to have, although it's obviously going to have at least the same or more RAM as the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro, so it's going to have at least 8 gigabytes. My guess would be either 12 or 16. For storage, we do know, this is officially confirmed, that it will have an SSD inside the system. We don't know capacity or speed, but all we know is that the PlayStation 5 will have an SSD, and we can make some assumptions about this. Since there will be an AMD Zen 2 8-core CPU, it will most likely support PCIe 4.0, so it should have a super fast SSD within the system. We know that the PlayStation 5 will have a 4K Blu-ray player on it, which is going to be great. That is something that's been missing from the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro, and that's something that the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X both have had, is a 4K Blu-ray player, and no current PlayStation console has one. So that'll be good to finally have that on a PlayStation, especially now that we live in the age of 4K movies and 4K Blu-rays, is now you can actually use your PlayStation console to watch movies on like that. And the system will actually have a resolution output support of up to 8K. So this is a limit based on HDMI. This doesn't mean that this is what games will run at, but just that the system, if at all possible, will run at 8K if there's an application or a game. The system has the resources and has the hardware to actually do so. And Sony has also said that the PlayStation 5 will have PlayStation VR support as well, so theoretically you could just plug in your same PSVR into your PS5 and run all those PSVR games on it, but just play them on your new PlayStation 5 and they'll run better and run great and just fine. But that's another thing too, is that the PlayStation 5 will have backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 4. So every single PlayStation 4 game that you guys own or is out there, you can play it on your PlayStation 5. So this is most likely done through emulation. Your PlayStation 5 is going to emulate a PlayStation 4, similar to how the PlayStation 4 Pro has an emulation mode where it can emulate a base PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 5 is probably going to have an emulation mode resembling the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro. This is also something that's been leaked, so I have a bunch of videos on my channel about leaked PlayStation 5 specs and all the sorts of different information about the PlayStation 5. So if you guys haven't seen that, you guys should totally go and check that out. But let's detail some of the hardware behind this. The CPU will be an 8-core Zen 2 7nm microarchitecture. So that's going to be really, really good. 7nm is great. I mean, Intel's not even on 7nm, and we're going to be getting 7nm on consoles. I mean, the current iPhone 11 is based off of 7nm technology, and all of the Zen 2 architecture, so Ryzen 3000, is all based off of 7nm, and it's going to really show with this console. And I think the CPU is probably going to be one of the biggest upgrades coming around this time with this new generation of consoles, and games are really going to be able to shine with this new system. Sony also says that the PlayStation 5 will have a custom unit for 3D audio, which is probably also done through ray tracing. So Sony has said that the GPU will support ray tracing, although they more so talked about it being for 3D audio for stuff like Dolby Atmos and for ray tracing audio. So getting audio to be fully 360 degrees 3D audio. But Sony's Mark Cerny also talked about ray tracing for visuals and for games. He said, quote, "There is ray tracing acceleration in the GPU hardware," which I believe is a statement that people were looking for. So this is great because this is something that NVIDIA has been pushing with their 20 series GPUs. Is ray tracing is a new technology that allows for better visuals within games. It's very hard to run unless you have specific hardware to accelerate it, which the PlayStation 5 will have. As for the SSD within the PlayStation 5, we know that it'll be an SSD. We don't know if it's going to be PCIe 4.0 or if it's going to be like M.2 or whatever. We just know that there'll be a PlayStation 5. We don't know any specs on like capacity or speed or anything like that. Although just a PlayStation 5 having an SSD in general will be really incredible, and games are going to have virtually no loading screens. You're going to be able to be very, very responsive. And the console's overall going to be like a huge step up just because of the SSD. And a number of months ago, Sony actually showed off a demo of the PlayStation 5 to show the impact of an SSD and what that would look like for a gaming experience on the PlayStation 5. So they showed off Spider-Man on PS4, and they showed a difference between the current PlayStation 4 and the next generation PlayStation 5. So a PlayStation 5 dev kit, they say that the Spider-Man PlayStation 4 took 15 seconds to fast travel, whereas the PlayStation 5 took 0.8. So over 15 times faster to load all that in on a PlayStation 5, and that's thanks to the SSD. And because SSDs aren't physical moving parts, they're able to read and write data so much faster. So fast traveling is going to be quicker in games, as well as like loading times and pop-in stuff like that's basically going to be eliminated because of the SSD. And even things like the UI is going to be so much more responsive just because you have that SSD, because everything's going to be able to be loaded in and out of memory super quick. And Mark Cerny actually had a quote about the PlayStation 5's SSD. He says, "Rather than treating games like a big block of data, we are allowing finer grained access to the data." So basically they're going to be doing kind of the same thing that Microsoft has been doing, where you can split up game downloads and only download parts of games that you specifically want. So if you guys want to download, say, only the single player for a game, or if you only want to download the multiplayer, or you want to download them in a specific order, you'll be able to. Another thing to note about this SSD though is that this is going to also make downloading games quicker, because something that's happened with the PlayStation 4 is if you guys, have like gigabit internet or even faster, you may have noticed the games won't actually download at your full speed. So if you're paying for 1000 megabit internet from gigabit internet and you got it hooked up through Ethernet and everything, games won't actually download at gigabit speeds. And there's a number of factors behind this limiting you, but one thing that will change with the PlayStation 5 is because of the SSD. The SSD will allow you to download games and actually like transfer data and download data onto this drive way faster than that. So you're actually going to be able to download games virtually as fast as your internet will actually be able to handle it, as well as a number of other things, Sony's back-end system and content delivery, all that different stuff. But overall, games should download quicker and should also be a little bit more consistent in their downloads, where sometimes it might download at 100 megabits a second, and then in 2 seconds it might drop down to 40 or something like that. So there's a lot of inconsistencies there, so hopefully having this SSD will smooth things over a little bit, and also allow, if you're especially on the high end, should allow you to download games quicker as well. The PlayStation 5 will have a brand new user interface separate from the PlayStation 4. It should hopefully be similar, but also way more responsive and changed as well. And Mark Cerny actually has a quote about this. He says, "Even though it will be fairly fast to boot games, we don't want the player to have to boot the game, see what's up, boot the game, see what's up. Multiplayer game servers will provide the console with a set of joinable activities in real time. Single-player games will provide information like what missions you could do and what rewards you might receive for completing them, and all of those choices will be visible in the UI. As a player, you just jump right into whatever you like." So basically, a lot of that data that you might get from inside of a game, say your ranks or news and stuff like that, that stuff is going to be on the PlayStation 5 user interface. So that means you won't have to just boot up the game to find out information about like that. You can just find that all out from the menu. And you could find out missions that you could do. So like you're playing a single player campaign like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, you can find out exactly where you're at in that game just from the system menu. PlayStation VR, like I said, will be supported with this new system with the PlayStation 5. Sony has actually patented a new PlayStation VR headset, which Sony has actually talked about how they want it to be lighter, have fewer cables, and be easier to put on, and of course be more powerful. So I'll have a video coming up in the next couple days about that, so make sure you guys go and check that out. But the PlayStation 5 will support the current PlayStation VR headset, as well as hopefully this new one that'll be coming out. But also it's been pretty much confirmed that the new PlayStation VR headset will not be launching alongside the PlayStation 4 when it comes out this year in 2020. The PlayStation 5 will support backwards compatibility. PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan actually had a quote about this. He says, whether it's backwards compatibility or the possibility of cross-generational play, we'll be able to transition that community to next gen. It won't be a binary choice about whether you have to be either on PlayStation 4 or next gen to continue your friendship. So this is great. All PlayStation 4 games will run on the PlayStation 5. Plus, he says there'll be the possibility of cross-generational play. So if you're playing a game like this year in 2020, Call of Duty Black Ops 5 is supposed to come out. So you should be able to play Black Ops 5 on your PlayStation 4 and also be able to play with people on PlayStation 5. So you should be able to play on your PlayStation 5 and also be playing with people on PlayStation 4. That should be the same thing with cross-generational play. As of now, we have a lot of games that support cross-play between Xbox One and PlayStation 4, but now it sounds like there'll be cross-generational play between like Xbox One and PS4, plus you could also have somebody on PlayStation 5. So you could even have somebody theoretically playing PlayStation 5 versus Xbox One, or Xbox Series X versus PlayStation 4. So that should all be really cool. And it's a great feature for you to be able to not lose your games library just because you're upgrading to this new console. So if you have any games that you really enjoy playing this generation on your PlayStation 4, you'll be able to play all those same games on your PlayStation 5. There's going to be a new PlayStation controller, the DualShock 5, will be coming out with this system. And Sony has actually put out some patents for it. These are what the patents actually look like for the PlayStation 5 controller. And once again, Mark Cerny actually had a quote talking about the PlayStation 5 controller, about this new DualShock 5. He says, to that end, there are two key innovations of the PlayStation 5's new controller. First, we're adopting haptic feedback to replace the rumble technology found in the controller since the 5th generation of consoles. With haptics, you truly feel a broader range of feedback, so crashing into a wall in a race car feels much different than making a tackle on the football field. You can even get a sense for a variety of textures when running through fields of grass or plodding through mud. The second innovation is something we call adaptive triggers, which have been incorporated into the trigger buttons L2 and R2, so developers can program the resistance to the triggers so you feel the tactile sensation of drawing a bow and arrow or accelerating an off-road vehicle through rocky terrain. In combination with the haptics, this can produce a powerful experience that better simulates various actions. The PlayStation 5 controller will also support USB-C, which is great. It's something that the Xbox Elite Controller Series 2 has, and it's phenomenal. USB-C is absolutely amazing and is really, really great. So it's good to see that both Microsoft and Sony will be moving away from micro USB and to USB-C for charging. They also say that it will weigh a little bit heavier than the current DualShock 4, but they say it will still weigh less than the current Xbox One controller with batteries. So the overall design of the PlayStation 5 controller is going to be similar to the previous DualShocks, but there is a few key differences here. The main thing is just down here by the PlayStation button on the controller, there is some new design going on here. And there's even been rumors about the PlayStation 5 controller and what its design is actually going to be like, because Sony released that brand new PlayStation 4 back button attachment where it has an OLED screen on the back that basically allows you to customize whatever button you want on the back of it, similar to an Elite controller or something like a SCUF controller. But lastly for this video, let's talk about some of the most important details about the system, and that's about price and reveal date and release date. So price, we don't have any official information about how much the PlayStation 5 is going to cost. Most likely, if we had to take a guess here, it'd be $400. That's what the PlayStation 4 launched at, and that's also what the current PlayStation 4 Pro is at. And it's a great price and has definitely contributed to the fact that the PlayStation 4 has sold over 100 million copies. So it'd be very unlikely for Sony to have the PlayStation 5 vary from that price almost at all. So it's most likely going to be $400, but only time will tell. We're going to still have to wait to get official information about that. As for when the PlayStation 5 will be revealed, we had a recent rumor or a fake leak going around that was basically saying that it was going to be revealed on like February 15th, but that would turn out to be fake. And I made a video about that, so if you guys haven't checked that out, you guys should go and do so. But it's rumored that it will be revealed this month in February, as it is the 7th anniversary of when the PlayStation 4 was revealed. So safe to say we will be getting a reveal sometime soon. Sony will not be attending E3, so there won't be any news about the PlayStation 5 at E3. So Sony will have to have their own conferences revealing the system and also talking about price, release date, and so on. So as for the release date, the only information we have about this is that it will release holiday 2020. So it's going to come out around the same time as the Xbox Series X. And what is holiday 2020? That could either be October, November, or December. There's about a 3-month period there where the PlayStation 5 could come out. As for a guess of when the PlayStation 5 will come out, my guess is that it would be sometime within November. I think it'd be very, very soon for them to have it released in October. I feel like that's a little bit too soon. November is when the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 was actually released, was in November of 2013. And that's a good month because that allows people to actually have a little bit of time between when it's revealed, say if it's revealed this month, and if it comes out in November, for people to save up money and get hyped for it and get lots of pre-orders in, but also enough time for the system to actually be released before Black Friday. Maybe there'll be a deal on Black Friday where you can get like an extra controller or something like that, but hopefully it will be on sale before Black Friday, and then also should obviously be on sale way before Christmas. That way lots of consumers will actually have it available to purchase for Christmas. So that's all the information we have about the PlayStation 5 so far, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As of now, we don't have a lot of official information, but this is all we know so far. But we will be getting a lot more information as time goes on, and it's only a matter of time now before we actually finally get the reveal of the PlayStation 5, and it should be pretty exciting. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you're not already, that you guys stay up to date with all the latest PlayStation 5 videos, and make sure you guys ring that notification bell, that you guys get an instant notification whenever we upload new videos, and if there's any new information about the PlayStation 5s. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I truly do appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.